What's up, guys? I want to talk a little bit about the latest rumors. I guess I shouldn't say rumors. A couple of people have already posted on YouTube and online about the Dirt series is going to be a part of the game. Um, so that's not really the biggest secret in the world. Ed Martin has been posting a lot of teasers stuff, and I know people are excited, to have even a couple more series in the game. We already talked about K&N, and I do believe that at some point he did confirm that they're actually adding more tracks than they added last year. So um, that's good. Anything you can add to the game is good, but I'm really concerned that all of their focus has been on adding whatever series they're adding and whatever tracks they're adding, right? So basically, we're gonna know pretty much what's there in a week, right? So I don't want to get carried away, and I certainly don't want people to think that I'm being down and negative. I know that it might come across that way, but there is concern. That's pretty much what I feel concerned. And I think there's good reason for that, because all we know so far is that they're adding at least a couple series, right? And there's one's going to be a Dirt series. They already pretty much confirmed the K&N series, and whatever tracks they're adding. So that we pretty much know. And then they're also filming some more of those live action cutscenes where a driver talks to you, after the race. And as I've said in a previous video, I really was hoping they would go away from that. I feel like that was a failed experiment. It doesn't really add anything to the immersion or of the career mode. It does come across as kind of corny and hokey and just at times cringeworthy, because when you do these live action cutscenes, you're really relying on the acting ability of these drivers. They're not really actors, and I'm not attacking them at all. The point is that that type of cutscene in a game, I've never seen a live action cutscene in a game that was actually good, right? And it just didn't feel right last year, and they're still going in that direction. That is a red flag for me. I'm sorry. I was hoping they would walk away from that, because it's hard for me to think that they actually worked on some real animated cutscenes that tie everything together between the races and throughout your career. This is what a successful career mode in any sports game must have, and they all kind of have that. The best example that I've always used is the 2K NBA series. So we know they have a lot of problems, but it's really not related to the actual presentation. The thing that makes the NBA 2K series what it is and has been for the past, I guess, 12, 13 years has been the career mode, the depth, the fact that there's so much detail and content that's off the court that ties everything together, and you really feel like you're not just playing basketball, but you're living the life of an NBA player. And you start at the bottom, and you kind of got to get drafted, and you deal with agents and stuff like that, and commercial endorsements and contracts and rivalries with other players, and you actually do interviews and stuff. So I know that some people think that that stuff is not important, but it really is. If you play those type of games, you will see how important that stuff is. And that's the number one thing that I feel has been missing from NASCAR games since 2011, which was the first Technics game. These games all feel empty and bare bones. And I just have a feeling that 704 is under the impression that just adding more tracks and more series, that's going to flesh the game out. That's not. It's just adding more of what you did last year, which, let's be honest, did the game really feel fleshed out? No. It still feels bare bones and empty. And yeah, it's nice momentarily when you work your way up. Now, personally, I'm only speaking for myself. I don't really go back and run trucks and Xfinity. My deal is working your way up to Cup, and then I'm just focused on Cup. That obviously isn't going to be the same thing for everyone, but how many people actually restart their entire career over and over to go through that experience? So when you focus so much on that, it's really a temporary thing for most people. The thing that for me is the most important, and it's vital, is to the presentation, the things that happen between races. You should be involved and see what happens back at the race shop with the team and the engineers that build these cars, work on these cars, test. You should be involved in testing and make practice more important and have it, be an immersive experience. So you have more of an interaction with, let's say, your crew chief, and coming up with setups for the race cars. What happens throughout the week in preparation for the next race? There's so much that goes into the sport of NASCAR that is missing from these games. And I think that's where the biggest disconnect is from the hardcore fans like myself and even the most casual fans. If you don't give people the full experience, this is why these games always feel empty and bare bones. And I'm sorry, but these live action cutscenes of a driver just talking to you for a couple of seconds after a race, not only does it feel cheesy, and it's disconnecting, and nothing else really happens. So it just feels like they're doubling down and they're going all in on just these more series, more tracks. And I do like that they're adding this stuff. I'm not against it. My point is that if they're so focused on this stuff that it doesn't take up all of their development time, so now they can't focus on the things that I'm talking about, like the presentation, like making sure there's a fully fleshed out paint booth, and give you as a player a full customization, and fixing the issues in the game that already exist with the physics, the handling, the tire model, of course the AI, the pit strategy, making sure that the AI spreads out more. They just don't spread out. They don't really run a lot of different lines. There's a lot of work that needs to go into that stuff, and that takes a lot of testing and a lot of programming and coding. And it's tedious work, but it has to be done. You want people that when they play this game, that they feel an improvement all across the board. The things that we don't like about the game or that are a problem have to be addressed. And it's hard for me to believe that they're focused on that when they're so focused on this other stuff where you're adding all these racetracks and a couple of series, and it just, now I could be wrong, and that's really what I'm hoping for. And I hope that a week from now, when they do talk about this next game, I hope it's not just all about these new series, but all of the tweets and all of these hints and this stuff, it's just about more of what they did last year. And think about it. Ask yourself, did adding the trucks and Xfinity last year truly elevate this game? Yes, it did. A little bit for me, but not enough. Not anywhere nearly enough. And I just feel like they would have been able to do so much more if they had only focused on the Cup and addressed these other issues that I talked about, and flesh and add presentation. so that once that stuff is really settled in, then you could add more series and tracks and stuff. They're doing it, to me. They're doing it the long way. They're going about this the wrong way. You know, you're adding more tracks and series and stuff, and I'm just saying, it could be possible that they did address all this stuff, and I'm hoping that they did. But, you know, you always hear this stuff about what a small developer they are, and it's just they're not a big developer. Well, then you got to be smart, and you got to focus on the things that are the most important. And it just, you know, it concerns me. You know, if it turns out that this is just more of what they did last year, this game's it's just gonna be another huge disappointment. Now, yes, it was a step forward from the first game, but the bar is set so low that, you know, it doesn't take a lot for somebody to play the game and feel like, okay, yeah, it's better than the last game. But we're at a point now where we deserve more. And how many years of development are we expected to wait and continue to support this company, and still not get the things people have been screaming for? Things that are not really that innovative. Stuff we used to have 12, 15 years ago in games that felt much deeper and immersive. And the reason I focus so much on certain aspects is because they're no-brainers to me. And if you keep overlooking that aspect of the game's development, that's a huge problem for me. It tells me something about the mindset of the developer and the people who actually make the decisions on what direction this game is going. And I understand that I'm a very small-time YouTuber. Nobody really knows who I am except a handful of people. So when I talk about things, I'm not surprised that a game developer doesn't pay attention. You know, I get it. But this is why I also count on other people, other YouTubers, to take what I say, and if they agree with it, to help push this message forward. If they can forward my videos and stuff, I'm always appreciative of that, because nobody knows who I am, and that's probably never going to change. I've never asked for subscribers. I don't ask for people to like my videos, because I don't make money doing this. I'm not looking to do that. You know, when I make videos and I talk about stuff, it's just stuff I feel like talking about. There's no ulterior motives. I'm not just trying to make money and stuff like that. And nothing against people who do that. I respect that. But that's not why I do this. You know, I'm a huge NASCAR fan. I'm a fan of these video games. And I want to see a better product. So that's all I'm trying to do. And I know that some people don't always agree with the things I say. And that's fine. And if you don't agree, I don't expect you to, like, support what I say and push it forward. That's fine. If you don't agree, you don't agree. But if you really listen to my points and what I'm saying, and you're open-minded, I can't see how you don't get it. And what I'm telling you is that if it turns out that this is really what this next game's going to be, just doubling down on what they did last year, adding more series and tracks, and not do anything else, it's going to be a huge disappointment. You know, the things that make a player feel immersed in a game is a sense of accomplishment. When you run a race, your finish, your place should matter, right? There's no stat. I mean, they added stats last year, finally, and that was because a lot of people really got upset. And you know, I'm not tooting my own horn, but the person who's always been on top of this has been me since the Eutechnics days. And I've always found it incredible that you can develop a sports game and you don't put stats in the game. And I'm talking about a compilation, a fully fleshed out compilation of stats like every other game has, that's broken down year by year You know, there's a lot you can do. Things we used to see. Just go back and play the old Thunder series or Dirt to Daytona. Play all these games. They're fully supported by stats. And the thing that pisses me off and has always pissed me off about these games is none of that has anything to do with the fucking game engine. And people, even to this day, they're all like, oh, game engine this, game engine that. Ask yourself what game engine was being used in the old Thunder series or for Dirt to Daytona way back when. And tell me if whatever the fuck engine they were using back then is better than this current Unity engine. You know, they just got carried away with this idea that this engine is the cause of everything. It's not. It doesn't. Nothing is going to fix a lack of vision by these developers if they don't get it, if they don't understand. And this is another thing that I've always said. It's important for these guys to really look at other games. And I've always said, you know, if I was in charge of development, I would make everyone at the company play those games I talk about. Like the NBA 2K series, like MLB The Show, and those old NASCAR games. And then explain to them, do you see why this is more immersive? Do you see why you feel a bigger sense of accomplishment? That's vitally important, especially in a sports game. Where you finish in a race, it should matter. Something should happen. You should be somehow reminded. If you're not running well, it should affect your career in some way. In the old games, we used to have things like you kept track of your fan base. You had merchandising, and you had an effect on that depending how you ran. You even had like things like you could be kind of a bad guy or a good guy. I mean, I don't necessarily think we need to do exactly that stuff again. But the point is that when you race, you don't just, okay, you finished 5th, just go to the next race. It's got to matter. And if you win, there should be a much better victory lane celebration. You know, people ask for stuff like burnouts and stuff like that. And yeah, it's simple stuff. A track map when you're racing, you could see where everybody is. Yeah, I know that's not the most realistic thing, but it was something that was cool. People always enjoyed that. I did. It doesn't have to be that everything has to be lifelike. There are some things. At the end of the day, it's a game. It should be fun. And there are things that add to the fun and just make the game better. Even things like a rewind feature. You know, there isn't a lot I say about Eutechnics. I thought they were horrible. But one thing they did right was they gave you a fully fleshed out paint booth. And it was the best customization we've ever had in NASCAR. And they also gave you a rewind feature. You know, there are times in a race where something fucked up happens. It's not your fault. Or you just want a do-over. Yeah, I know that's not realistic. But you don't have to use it. And the way Eutechnics did it was okay. They gave you a limited number of rewinds. So, you know, it's not a make or break thing for me, but it's just cool little things that add to the experience. A caution replay system is, people have been wanting this for a long time. And when a caution happens, you want to see what happened. And it adds to that feel of a televised race, you know, and have a ticker go across the top of the screen that you can turn on and off and see what place everyone's in. You know, and I'm always talking about the presentation, the pre-race, post-race. There should be commentary. How about an interview at victory lane or the pits? You know, if you had a bad finish, whatever. Answer a couple questions and have that play into the game. These are the type of things we've been seeing for years in other games, especially like the NBA 2K series. And I tell people, play these games and experience it, and you will feel immersed in the game. So when you play the game, you look forward to see what happens if you win or you lose the game, or if you had a bad game. Maybe you had a great game, but you still lost. So many different scenarios happen, but it's not just about the game itself. It's what happens in between. This is what I keep trying to send that message to these guys. That's what a fleshed out game is. And you got to be involved in all aspects of the sport. And this will attract more casual fans, right? Because a lot of people want to see more of a simulator. It's never going to be a simulator. You can, I think, improve the physics and all the stuff and make it closer to a simulator. Or maybe even a game like Project Cars that takes the physics and handling a little more to the serious side. That's great. But you don't need to be a full-blown simulator. That's not what this is. The purpose of this is to have fun and be immersed. You know, the whole point of playing a sports title, this is what makes other sports titles great. They literally make you feel like you really are a real pro athlete who is living the life of an athlete and dealing with the things that happen off court or off the field, and maybe requesting a trade and stuff. There's so much you can do in a NASCAR game, and the fact that it hasn't even been attempted since 2011. Yes, I'm including Eutechnics because this is what we keep seeing from developers. And Ed Martin was over there too. He was part of Eutechnics. So this is why I get so frustrated, because that's what's holding this series from being what it could be. And a lot of people, I haven't played the Formula One series, but a lot of people rave about it because it does have a fully fleshed out career. It does get a lot deeper and immersive in the engineering aspects of the game, of the sport. But it just feels like right now, everything to 704 is just keep adding more tracks, put more series in there. Now, I am excited to play a dirt series and all this stuff. But, you know, once you get through that progression to the top, I don't even, all these tracks they added, the trucks, the Xfinity, I don't even play, I don't remember the last time I ran one of those. You know, once I get to Cup, I'm focused on Cup. So these other things that I'm talking about that really need to be addressed, that elevates the entire game because it affects it doesn't matter what series you're in. You're still going through the grind of the career. That's where this series has been lacking. And I haven't changed my mind about that. It is what it is. And if I really hope I am wrong, right? In a week, hopefully, when they announce this stuff, it's not just the series, these new series and tracks. If they don't talk about all these other things, I'm going to have a hard time feeling pumped up about this. And I've talked about the lack of vision, that I haven't really seen it. Still, even with all of this information that's been released, I've yet to see that vision go in that direction that I want it to go. So, I know it sounds like I'm so negative, and I'm not trying to be. I've been supportive of this company, and I have given them credit for some stuff they've done. And like I said, yeah, they were heading in the right direction, but now I see it's like they're kind of dragging their feet. And so I don't want to be negative, but I'm being real. I'm being realistic. I see things that tell me a story. You know, I see them filming more live action cutscenes. That's a bad sign for me, because it tells me maybe you're not going to get this presentation in between races and all this other stuff. That it's just going to be more of what we got last year, which I hated it. This live action stuff is cringeworthy to me. When Keselowski's talking to me, Logano, any of these guys, I don't care who it is. It's nothing personal. but there's a disconnect when you're playing, and it just that pops up, and it's like I just go to the next race, and nothing important happens, and you don't feel any sense of accomplishment. You just win a race, finish fifth, whatever, go to the next race, and it's just an exercise. And there needs to be a lot more. So now we kind of pretty much confirmed, or is being confirmed, that yes, there is going to be a dirt race. I don't know if it's going to be like a modified or a wheeling or one of these other cars. It could be just about anything. But I like that it's there, but it's like it can't just be about that. And if this is the third year in this series, you gotta come on, you gotta address this other stuff. And it just, I don't know. Have they ever even mentioned that they're working on the AI or the physics or any of that stuff? It doesn't feel like they seem too pumped up about the series and not talking about anything else. 1 week to go, and I'm pretty sure, that's going to be the point where we know what the hell's it's coming. So I still got hope. I still, think that there's a chance that there's more to it, but I don't really know how big this company is. I don't really know how many people are actually working on it. So, if they're adding this stuff and just gauging it by the amount of stuff they added last year, there's nothing that tells me, yes, they can add all this stuff and do the series and all that. If they announce that, hey, we just hired a whole shitload of new developers and the company has expanded and we've invested more money, if they ever released any information like that, then I'd be excited, because I'm like, all right, now, they're going all in and they're getting more serious. But I haven't heard nothing like that. I'm assuming they're still a small developer. Like everyone keeps telling me how small they are. We have to, I got to assume that they must be. And NASCAR, I'm not fully 100% sure, but I don't know if anyone that feels like making a NASCAR game can make it. I know there are people who claim that it's possible. As far as I know, only 704 has the license to create a NASCAR game. But then again, other games have done kind of giving you a small taste of NASCAR, right? Like Forza does it, Project Cars, I don't know what other games, but they'll give you like maybe one or two tracks, and then they put the cars in and stuff. So I don't know if it's a partial license, like, okay, we allow you to do this much, but you can't just make a whole NASCAR game. Only 704 can do it. I'm not 100% sure, but if that is the case, then shame on NASCAR, because you're stifling innovation because you're not allowing competition. And there used to be NFL football games made by 2K. So those games, and it's a long time ago, but they did a lot of innovative shit when it came to the physics, and there was a lot of cool shit they did that EA was not doing, couldn't do. And at some point, the NFL just took the license and just only EA makes football games. Destroyed innovation right then and there. And of course, Madden football is pretty much pissed on by a lot of people. I don't really play those games, but every year I do hear it's just another cut and paste rehash with updated rosters. Very little in terms of innovation. But that's what happens when you don't have competition. So if NASCAR, I don't know. I gotta believe that 704 is the only one with the license to actually create a NASCAR game. I think that's a huge problem. I've talked about that before, and that remains the case. I think I would have to think that if anyone could make a NASCAR game, maybe someone else would have stepped up. Until there's competition, there's really no incentive for these guys to, nobody lighting a fire on their ass. So it's 1 week left to go, and I got my fingers crossed, hoping that when, in a week's time, I really want to be able to make a video, talk about, the release of information or a trailer or whatever, and just be like, hey man, I'm pumped up about this, this, and that. I hope so. I really hope so. But so far, I can only talk about what we know, and I'm really not that excited. So hopefully I'm wrong. We got 1 week left, and I don't want people to say this guy is a hater like I've been called before. Listen, I'm being honest. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna tell you how great and awesome these live action cutscenes are gonna be when I already know I hated it. More of that is not gonna make the game better. And the series, I like it. It's a positive addition, but if it comes at the expense of not being able to do all the important stuff, then it's not a good thing. And there's a certain stage of doing things, and I just think they should have addressed the more important stuff first before they went to adding series. So how many of you guys actually go back and play the trucks in Xfinity? Alright, I'm not talking about online, but or run at Eldora. Yeah, I raced there a couple of times. It was interesting, but it's not like, oh my god, I love driving on Eldora. I got to do it again and again. You just don't. So when you think of shit like that, it's like you play these lower series, you'll do it for a little bit, but once you move up, and like I said, I'm only speaking for myself, but I got to believe other people are kind of feeling the same. How much of that stuff are you going to relive? Whereas the things that I'm talking about are things that are always going to be there. No matter which series you're running, that presentation's still going to be there. It's still going to be vital and important. Paint booth, customization, I don't know. What do you guys think about what I'm talking about? Now that there's pretty much is confirmation that there is going to be a dirt series. I don't know which one. And, these added tracks and stuff and the K&N, how do you guys feel about it? Is it enough for you? Do you agree or disagree? I look forward to your comments.